Hello, all. Resting is hard. Letting yourself actually take a break can be really hard, especially when you're dealing with internalized ablism or unlearning that your inherent value doesn't involve what labor you can provide for others. Looking at you, my parentified eldest children. So here's a 20-minute or so video of relaxing music and weaving. If you can, please grab some sort of hydration, sit, rest, drink your fluids, take your meds, and just breathe for 20 minutes. If you need something to do with your hands, that's absolutely fine too. I'll be asking a question partway through if accountability helps you like it does me, but answering that question is entirely optional. Your resting isn't being lazy, it's preventative maintenance. Actually resting for 20 minutes now will help prevent burnout later. Yes, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite, but I'm also fully planning on using my own videos for my own rest times, so I'm in this too. My name is Took. I'm a disabled genderqueer weaver who's had life take odd turns, but who knows that even tattered and worn yarn still has value, and that tired joints and health flares don't have to stop the journey. I weave exclusively with secondhand fibers, aided with adaptive warping, HR and OSHA cats, and a wonderful found family. Welcome to Hawk Song Weaving, where all our paths are a little bit warped. Today's question: what's something that happens when you walk into a room and immediately feel just welcome and at home? Like, what's a feature of a apartment or a house or just a home that makes you go, oh, I'm safe here? For me, it's usually the smells or the first sights of clutter, because I've lived in situations where it wasn't allowed to look like anyone actually lived there, and that sterile feeling just takes me back to those times, and I don't like it. But the smells of, like, just not necessarily BO, but like people live there, there's warmth, there's the smell of other human beings and food being cooked, and some cats saying hi. Just I like it when a place looks lived in. But what about you? What's one of something that you walk into a space and you just go, oh, I'm safe? thank you for resting. I'm so glad for the odd turn that your path took that brought you here. Thank you for spending time with me at Hawksong Weaving, where we're all a bit warped, and I hope that you have a truly excellent week.